A century of preparation. The Zorath Empire was one of the most feared powers in the galaxy. For thousands of years they had crushed worlds and broken nations. But there was always one planet they had not touched. One blue world on the edge of the spiral arm. Earth. The Zorath saw Earth as small, weak, and fragile. To them, humanity was reckless, violent, and unworthy of standing free. Yet, every time the Zorath pushed closer, humans refused to kneel. This insult burned in the hearts of the alien lords, and soon the council gave a command: prepare, and when the time comes, we will erase humanity forever. But the Zorath were not fools. They had watched humans fight before. They had seen human soldiers hold ground against enemies many times stronger. They had seen how humans adapted to harsh worlds, surviving storms, plagues, and wars that would have broken other species. So the Zorath chose patience. They would not rush, they would not gamble. Instead, they would prepare for 100 years. The order was given, and so began a century of training. Entire generations were born and raised under the shadow of Earth's name. In every academy, the same words were drilled into young minds. Earth is dangerous, humans are cunning, but we are stronger, we are eternal, we will win. Alien fleets filled with warships were built in secret. Carriers that could blot out suns, cruisers armed with planet-killing weapons, thousands upon thousands of smaller ships ready to swarm like a tide. The Empire poured everything into this single goal. To them, the destruction of Earth was not just war, it was destiny. Soldiers were trained day and night. They learned to breathe human air, to march under human gravity, to fight in forests, deserts, oceans, and frozen lands. They studied the history of Earth's wars, mocking humanity's short lifespans. They die too quickly to master war as we do, the trainers told them. But we train for centuries. We will crush them in minutes. And still, whispers spread among the younger soldiers. Some feared the stories, tales of humans surviving impossible battles, stories of soldiers who fought until their last breath, whispers of a species that did not know when to quit. In the barracks, in the shadows, some voices warned, "Be careful. The humans laugh at death, and those who laugh at death cannot be broken easily." But the high command silenced these doubts. The Empire had invested too much. Every drill, every ship, every weapon pointed to one truth: the fall of Earth. The last years of training were brutal. Soldiers were pushed until their bodies shook with exhaustion. Fighter pilots trained in asteroid fields shaped to mimic Earth's skies. Ground forces lived for months in artificial jungles and frozen wastelands. Commanders barked the same words again and again. When the invasion comes, humanity will resist, but resistance is meaningless. You are the storm, you are the blade. You are the end. At last, the 100th year arrived. The Zorath High Commander, Lord Valen, stood before the legions. His voice thundered across the parade ground. "We have prepared for a century. We have waited for this day. Tomorrow, Earth will fall. Tomorrow, humanity will be erased from the stars." His words were met with a roar of soldiers stamping, their feet chanting in rhythm, "Earth will fall, Earth will fall." Above the training world, the fleets gathered. Thousands of warships gleamed in orbit, their hulls shining like blades. Engines burned bright, and alien crews waited for the order. To them, victory was already decided. They had trained too long, prepared too carefully. They believed no human weapon could stop them. But far across the void, Earth was not sleeping. Humanity had watched the Empire grow restless. They had noticed the quiet building of fleets, the strange movement of ships, the whispers carried by traitors. The Zorath thought they had hidden their plan, but humans had eyes everywhere, in secret bunkers beneath mountains, in bases deep under oceans, in stations orbiting far from prying. Eyes humanity had been preparing too, not for 100 years, but for something far older. They prepared the way they always had, by surviving, adapting, and sharpening their will to fight. The Zorath thought their century of training made them strong. They believed Earth would crumble like dust. But they had forgotten one truth, a truth that echoed through every human war. Humans never fought fair. The fleets were ready. The invasion. Countdown began. Zorath engines roared as the armada moved. To them, Earth was already conquered, a world that would kneel within minutes. But history was about to show them the truth. Their century of preparation would end in just 6 minutes. The arrival in orbit, the Zorath fleets left their homeworld in silence. Thousands of warships slid through the darkness like predators. Their engines glowed blue against the black void, forming rivers of light across space. For the soldiers on board, this was the day they had been born for. 100 years of training had led them here, to the blue world called Earth, from the command throne of the flagship Dominion's fist. Lord Valen watched his empire's might move as one. His voice was calm, steady, and filled with pride. Soon the galaxy will witness the fall of the humans. Soon the name of Earth will be erased, and only the Zorath will remain. His officers bowed and saluted, eyes shining with confidence. As the fleets approached the Sol system, scouts rushed ahead. Their sensors probed Earth's defenses. Their reports returned with a strange result. Minimal activity detected. Human fleets not in orbit. Planetary defenses appear quiet. One officer smirked. "It seems they have already surrendered, Commander." But others frowned. They had studied humans long enough to know one thing. Silence was not weakness. Sometimes silence was the sharp edge of a blade waiting to strike. On Earth, the skies grew dark. Civilian eyes looked up as unfamiliar shadows covered the stars. Cities from New York to Tokyo, from Cairo to Sao Paulo, saw the same sight. Giant alien silhouettes drifting above the clouds. Children pointed with fear. Adults stood frozen, and governments issued urgent alerts. The news spread across the planet in seconds. The alien fleet was so large that entire continents were drowned in shadow. Massive carriers hovered above oceans. Smaller ships spread out over mountains and deserts. The invasion had begun not with fire but with fear. From the flagship, Lord Valen broadcast his voice across Earth's airwaves. His face appeared on every human screen. His reptilian eyes glared as his voice thundered. "People of Earth, your time has ended. Submit to the Zorath Empire. Lay down your weapons and kneel. If you resist, your cities will burn, your oceans will boil, and your species will be no more." For long seconds the world listened, waiting for its leaders to reply. But no reply came. Governments remained silent. The broadcast reached the United Earth Defense Council, and even there no voice was raised. The alien commander smiled, taking the silence as fear. "So they are already broken," he whispered, but the silence had another meaning. Humans were listening. Humans were waiting, and waiting was dangerous. Across the fleet, Zorath soldiers cheered. They struck their weapons together, chanting, "Earth will fall, Earth will fall." Their confidence grew as Earth gave no answer. "They are too frightened," the generals laughed. 100 years of preparation was more than enough. This will be over quickly. Yet far below, in the hidden bunkers of Earth, human commanders exchanged calm looks. They heard the broadcast. They heard the threat. But their hands did not tremble. They had trained for this too. Not for a century, but for survival itself. Above, alien ships moved into attack formation. Carriers opened their bays, revealing thousands of fighters ready to descend. Troop transports lined up, their hulls glowing red with heat as they prepared to dive through the atmosphere. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, and still Earth said nothing. At the last second, a whisper moved through the Zorath fleet. A strange signal appeared. On their sensors, something was rising from the oceans. Something massive. At first they thought it was a trick of their scanners. But then the surface of Earth broke apart and iron leviathans rose into the skies. Human warships, black and steel, powered by engines the Zorath had never seen, rose from beneath the waves. Railguns lined their hulls. Laser arrays glowed red, and their shields shimmered like invisible walls. The oceans boiled as more and more ships surfaced. The Zorath fleet froze. For the first time, their confidence cracked. "Impossible," one officer whispered. "Humans do not have this technology. They should not have this power, but they did." And now, as Earth remained silent, its ships spoke louder than any words. The trap had been set. Humanity had allowed the Zorath to gather, to arrive in full strength, and now they would crush them. Lord Valen's grin faded. His eyes narrowed as he stared at the human warships, rising into orbit. His voice was low, but every officer heard the fear within it. This was not in the reports. The silence of Earth was broken not by words, but by the sound of weapons charging. The skies above Earth filled with fire as humanity prepared to strike back. The first strike. The Zorath fleet filled Earth's orbit like a storm of steel. Carriers, destroyers, and transports hovered above the blue planet. Their shadows stretched across the clouds. Below, billions of humans watched with silent hearts. Waiting for the first move inside the flagship Dominion's fist, Lord Valen raised his clawed hand. "Begin the strike," he ordered. His voice was calm, filled with arrogance. "Let Earth feel the weight of 100 years of preparation." At once, the Zorath unleashed fire. Planet-cracking beams lanced downward. Streaks of red energy ripped through the atmosphere. Missiles fell like rain, burning through the skies toward cities and military bases. The alien soldiers roared in triumph. For them, the invasion had truly begun. But something strange happened. The beams struck Earth's shields, invisible barriers that shimmered with blue light. Instead of shattering, the shields absorbed the fire calmly. The missiles exploded against walls of energy, sending ripples across the skies but leaving the ground untouched. On the bridge of the flagship, confusion spread. "Commander, the shields are holding." One officer stammered. Another cried, "Impossible, their defenses should have collapsed instantly." Lord Valen's eyes narrowed. "Increase power, double the barrage." The alien fleet obeyed. Waves of fire hammered Earth again and again, but each strike met the same fate. The shields did not fall. Instead, they glowed brighter, humming with power, as though feeding on the enemy's fury. And then, the ocean moved. At first, the Zorath thought it was turbulence caused by their bombardment, but the waves grew higher, and from the depths rose ships, colossal human war machines hidden beneath the seas. They emerged like monsters from the deep. Black hulls rose from the waters, railguns sparking with lightning, cannons rotating into position. Their engines roared as they lifted into the skies, joining the orbit above Earth. One Zorath officer gasped, "They were waiting for us." Another whispered, "No, they were hunting us." The first shot came from a human warship named Iron Resolve. A railgun blast split the void, the projectile tearing straight through a Zorath cruiser. The alien vessel exploded in silence, scattering debris across the stars. Seconds later, Earth's hidden fleet opened fire. Railguns fired like thunder. Lasers cut through Zorath formations. Missile pods lit the darkness with trails of flame. The sky above Earth turned into a battlefield of fire and steel. The aliens tried to regroup, but panic spread faster than orders. Their 100 years of training had never prepared them for this. Their drills had been against simulations of weak human fleets, not against leviathans rising from oceans and mountains. Inside the flagship, Lord Valen roared, "Hold the line, destroy them. They cannot match our numbers." His voice echoed with desperation, but numbers meant nothing when formation after formation of Zorath ships fell in minutes. Human warships moved with precision, striking weak points, tearing through armor. Each volley was cold, efficient, and merciless. In the skies, Zorath fighters swarmed, trying to shield their carriers, but Earth ships unleashed drones, autonomous hunters that darted through the swarms like blades of light. Alien fighters burst into fireballs one after another. Down on Earth, people watched the skies burning. Fear turned into hope. Crowds in cities cheered as alien vessels fell in flames. Children pointed at the night sky where bright explosions marked every human. Victory. For the first time in history, all of Earth's nations stood united. Not in fear, but in awe. Minutes passed and the tide of battle shifted completely. Zorath fleets that had prepared for a century were being cut apart by weapons they did not understand. The arrogance of their command turned to disbelief. One officer on the flagship whispered in terror, This is not possible. They should be primitives. They should be weak." But humanity was not weak. Humanity was waiting. Humanity was ready. As the battle raged, A calm voice spread across the human fleet. It was the Earth Defense Commander speaking. To all captains, Phase 2, commence. More ships uncloaked from the darkness. Hidden stations in orbit powered up their weapons. Human forces had been patient. They had let the Zorath strike first, and now they would end it in that moment. The truth became clear. The first strike did not belong to the Zorath, it belonged to humanity. For every blast they had fired, Earth had answered with something greater. The war had only lasted minutes, but the Zorath were already losing. And as their fleets burned, one thought echoed across every alien mind. The century of training had meant nothing. They were facing something no drills could prepare them for. They were facing humanity. Humanity's hidden arsenal. The Zorath had trained for 100 years. Their fleets filled the skies. Their armies were drilled, their weapons sharpened. Yet in only a few minutes their confidence cracked. Their barrage had failed, their cruisers burned, and now Earth's answer had arrived. Human warships surged into orbit like beasts unleashed. They were not the fragile crafts the Zorath expected. They were armored leviathans, forged in silence and hidden in shadows. Ships rose not only from oceans but also from mountains, deserts, and orbital stations. Long disguised as research platforms, humanity had been preparing, but not in the way the Zorath imagined. In the flagship Dominion's fist, alarms screamed. Officers shouted reports as ship after ship was torn apart. Lord Valen's claws gripped the armrest of his throne. "What are these vessels?" he demanded. "Where did they come from?" No one had answers. The Empire had spied on Earth for decades. Their reports showed outdated fleets, small defense forces, primitive weapons. But the ships above Earth told a different story. Railguns, longer than city streets, fired slugs at near light speed. Laser lances cut through Zorath armor as though it were paper. And worst of all, the humans fought with perfect coordination. It was as if every move had been planned years in advance. Human ships moved like pieces on a chessboard, striking weak points, trapping larger vessels, and cutting off retreat. On the surface of Earth, the truth was revealed. Hidden under mountains, enormous hangar doors opened, releasing swarms of drones. Into the skies under the oceans, submarines surfaced, launching missile pods that streaked upward to join the battle. In orbit, satellites long thought to be silent suddenly glowed with energy, and then fired beams that carved holes through alien destroyers. The Zorath realized too late that Earth had built its weapons not in pride, but in secrecy, while the Empire trained, openly, boasting of their future conquest. Humanity worked in silence, turning survival into an art. The first alien carrier to fall shattered under a concentrated strike from 3 human railguns. Its wreckage broke apart and tumbled toward the ocean below. Pieces the size of cities burned across the atmosphere like falling stars. The people of Earth watched as the night sky lit up, and they cheered. Their fear melted into something else. Hope. Inside the Zorath fleet, fear spread faster than fire. "Our shields are failing," cried one officer. "We cannot hold them back." Another shouted, "Their weapons tear through our armor. It is impossible." Lord Valen silenced them with a roar. "Impossible? Nothing is impossible. We trained for this war. We prepared for this day. Crush them." But even as he spoke, another wave of human weapons came online. From orbit, a human superweapon revealed itself, a satellite cannon known only to Earth's highest commanders. The beam it unleashed was pure light, slicing through 3 alien cruisers in a single shot. The galaxy had never seen such power, and this was only the beginning. On the ground, human soldiers stood ready in case of invasion. Armored divisions rolled out from hidden bases. Anti-air batteries unfolded on rooftops, and mobile shield units spread across cities. Earth had not only prepared for space battles, but for war on every front. The Zorath had thought they were the hunters, but they had stepped into a trap. Humanity had studied them as carefully as prey studies a predator. The difference was simple. The prey had teeth. Above the planet, the war raged. Minute after minute, more Zorath ships fell. Their carefully drilled formations shattered. Their mighty carriers burned. For the first time in living memory, the Empire's fleets were not the hunters, they were prey. And still Earth had not spoken. No reply came to the alien broadcast. No surrender, no warning, only silence. It was as if humanity wanted their weapons to do the talking. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Admiral Cade, the commander of Earth's hidden fleet, gave his first order to the galaxy. His voice was steady, cold, and without mercy. Push them back, leave no invader standing. Today the galaxy learns that Earth is not prey. The human fleet moved with renewed fury, every strike precise, every move perfect. It was not chaos, it was judgment. Lord Valen watched as another carrier exploded in flame. His century of preparation crumbled before his eyes. He had told his soldiers Earth would fall in minutes, but now it was his empire burning. His hands shook, though he tried to hide it for the first time in his long life. He felt fear. The hidden arsenal of humanity had been unleashed, and the war that was supposed to prove the Empire's strength was about to prove something else, why humans were the deadliest species in the galaxy. The 6-minute war, the battle above Earth, had lasted only minutes, but to the Zorath it felt like an eternity. Their mighty fleet, trained for 100 years, was being torn apart as if their effort had been a child's game. On the flagship, Dominion's Fist, Lord Valen's claws dug into the armrest of his throne. His voice thundered across the bridge, "Hold the line, regroup, we are still the Empire." But his soldiers' eyes told the truth. They were no longer fighting to conquer, they were fighting to survive. At the 3-minute mark, Earth's fleet split into coordinated wings. Each group of human warships hunted specific targets. One wing dove into the heart of the alien formation, blasting apart destroyers with precision fire. Another cut off supply vessels and transports, leaving Zorath soldiers stranded without support. Railguns fired again and again. Each shot a thunderclap across the void. Alien armor shattered, ships cracked open, and flames spilled into the blackness. Explosions painted the stars in orange and blue. "Impossible," an officer screamed. "They move like they knew our every tactic." And in a way they did, for humanity had studied the Zorath as carefully as the Empire had studied them. The difference was that humans learned faster. At the 4-minute mark, the Zorath attempted a counterstrike. Fighters swarmed forward in waves, desperate to cover their carriers, but Earth's drones rose to meet them, sleek machines with minds of their own. They darted through alien squadrons, weaving and striking like blades of lightning. Dozens of fighters were cut down in seconds, their wrecks scattering across the void. Human warships pushed forward, their engines burning bright. A massive vessel, the Titan's Wrath, fired its main cannon. The blast ripped through a line of alien cruisers, erasing them in an instant. Survivors screamed across comms, begging for orders, but their chain of command was broken. Lord Valen bared his fangs, refusing to believe. "We trained for a century, they are only children compared to us." But as he spoke, another explosion shook his ship, and another, at the 5-minute mark. Earth's hidden orbital cannons, activated beams of energy, rained down from satellites that the Zorath had dismissed as debris. Each strike cut through ships with merciless accuracy, carving holes through their mighty fleet. Below, humanity watched from cities and bunkers. People saw the sky burn with falling wrecks. They saw alien fire turn to sparks. They saw human ships standing firm, and a truth spread like fire in their hearts. Earth was winning. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Admiral Cade gave the final order. His voice was calm, almost cold. "End it." The human fleet surged together, focused fire tearing apart the last carriers. Transport ships tried to run but were cut down. Frigates attempted to shield their flagships but were pierced by railgun fire. The alien formation crumbled like glass struck with a hammer. At the 6-minute mark, silence fell over orbit. Not because the battle slowed, but because there were no more Zorath ships left to fight. What remained were drifting hulks, burning wreckage, and the ghosts of an empire's arrogance. The 6-minute war was over. On the Dominion's Fist, Lord Valen stared at the burning remains of his fleet. His soldiers avoided his eyes. Their weapons trembled in their claws. He whispered to himself, 100 years, for this. His empire's dream had ended not in glory, but in ashes. The galaxy would remember this day, not as the rise of the Zorath, but as the moment humanity revealed its true strength. Down on Earth, people wept with relief. They had feared extinction, but now they had witnessed something greater. Humanity had not only survived, they had shown the galaxy that no empire, no matter how strong, could break them. The war had lasted 6 minutes, but in those 6 minutes humanity had changed everything. The message to the galaxy. The smoke of battle still lingered in Earth's orbit. Thousands of wrecks floated in silence, twisted metal drifting like broken bones in the black void. What had once been the pride of the Zorath Empire was now a graveyard above a blue and quiet planet. On the flagship Dominion's fist, Lord Valen stood frozen. His claws trembled as the reality sank in. 100 years of training had ended in 6 minutes. Around him, his officers sat in silence, their faces pale, their voices gone. No one dared to speak the word they all felt. Defeat. Across the galaxy, hidden eyes had been watching. The Zorath were not alone in their ambition. Other empires, other nations, had turned their attention toward Earth, waiting to see how the war would unfold. For centuries, humanity had been called reckless, fragile, weak. Yet now those same voices whispered in fear. If the Zorath could be broken so quickly, what chance did anyone else have? On Earth, the United Defense Council met in a chamber deep beneath the surface. Leaders from every nation gathered, their faces lit by the glow of the battle feeds. Admiral Cade stood before them, his uniform scorched from the fight. His words were steady. The Zorath invasion is ended. Their fleet has been destroyed. But this was not only for us, the galaxy was watching. Now they must hear us. The council agreed humanity had to speak, not to boast, not to taunt, but to deliver a truth no empire could ignore. Minutes later, a broadcast was sent. A single signal spread from Earth to every corner of the stars. It cut into trade routes, communication networks, and military relays. It reached smugglers on the edge of space and admirals in their hidden fortresses. It reached every species that had ever wondered if Earth could be broken. On their screens appeared Admiral Cade. His eyes were sharp, his voice calm. He spoke without shouting, without pride, but with the weight of 6 minutes of fire and steel. This is Earth. You came with a fleet trained for 100 years. You came with the strength of an empire. You came to erase us. You lasted 6 minutes. To those who watch, to those who dream of conquest, remember this. We do not kneel, we do not surrender, we endure. And if you come here uninvited, you will find only fire. This is our only warning. The message ended, leaving silence in its wake across the stars. Species listened, some in shock, some in fear. On merchant ships, captains whispered, "Did you hear?" 6 minutes, that is all it took. In military academies of rival empires, instructors paused their lessons, staring at the screen. Some erased invasion plans before their students could see them. Even allies of the Zorath, who had once cheered for their power, now trembled. The empire they had trusted to be unstoppable had been torn apart like paper. And the humans, they had not even broken a sweat. In the ruins of his fleet, Lord Valen finally found his voice. His words were bitter, filled with disbelief. We were the empire of ages, we trained for a century, and yet, 6 minutes, we never understood them. We thought them weak, and that was our doom. The survivors of the Zorath fled into the void, their engines burning. No one sang of glory, no one spoke of conquest. They left behind only wreckage and shame. But the galaxy did not forget. From that day onward, Earth was no longer the small blue planet on the edge of the spiral arm. It became a name spoken with caution, a name that carried weight, a name that warned all who listened humanity did not celebrate. There were no parades, no shouting. Instead, there was silence, the same silence that had begun the war. It was not pride, but certainty. Humanity had survived. Humanity had defended itself. Humanity had sent a message that no one could erase. The words of Admiral Cade echoed across the stars, whispered again and again. 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes. And with each whisper, fear grew. The galaxy had seen many wars, but never one like this. The fall of the Zorath was not just a defeat. It was a warning carved into the fabric of history. A warning that no empire, no, matter how strong, should ever mistake Earth for prey again. The aftermath and legend. The battlefield above Earth was silent now. Wrecks of alien warships floated like tombstones. Their twisted hulls glowed faintly as fires still burned. Debris rained into the atmosphere, streaking across the night sky. Like falling stars to the people below, those fiery trails were not signs of fear anymore. They were signs of victory. Humanity had survived. The Zorath, who trained for a century, had been erased in 6 minutes. Families gathered outside, staring up at the skies. Children clutched their parents' hands, whispering, "We won. Earth won." Across every city, across every nation, one feeling united all of humanity. Hope in secret chambers deep beneath the mountains. The United Defense Council reviewed the battle logs. Every detail was recorded, every strike analyzed. For humanity, this was not only a victory, it was a lesson. They had shown the galaxy their power, but they also knew more challenges would come, and they would be ready. Admiral Cade stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve. His uniform bore the scars of battle, but his expression was steady, calm. He looked at the wreckage beyond the viewport. He spoke softly, not to his crew, not to the council, but to himself. They thought we were prey. Now they know the truth. Far away, survivors of the Zorath limped back to their empire. Their broken fleets crawled across the void, carrying shame heavier than their weapons. On their homeworld, leaders struggled to hide the defeat, but the truth could not be contained. Whispers spread in every starport, every market, every soldier's barracks. The Zorath fell in 6 minutes. The humans destroyed them. Soon, the whispers became stories. The stories became legends, and the legends spread faster than any ship. In distant academies, alien cadets trained under the shadow of Earth's name. Instructors spoke with caution. If you face humans, remember, they are not to be underestimated. They will endure when all others fall. Among merchants, the tales grew more colorful. Some claimed Earth ships were alive. Others swore humans had weapons powered by the very core of stars. Some even whispered that humanity was not fighting alone, that death itself stood at their side. But all the tales agreed on one thing. Earth was no longer weak. Earth was no longer ignored. Humanity had entered legend, back on Earth. There was no celebration of glory. There were no parades. Humanity understood that survival was not about boasting. It was about vigilance. So instead of cheering, they rebuilt. Ships returned to their hidden bases. Soldiers stood guard at their posts, and new weapons were designed. They knew the Zorath would not be the last. Yet for the first time in centuries, Earth stood united. Borders mattered less. Nations worked as one. The war had shown them a truth. They were strongest together, and in that unity, humanity found more than survival. They found purpose. They would no longer wait for the galaxy to come to them. They would step into the stars on their own terms. Admiral Cade sent his final report to the council. His words were simple. We survived, we defended, and now we prepare. The galaxy has seen our fire. They will not forget. The council approved a new directive, one that would shape the future. Humanity would not remain silent anymore. They would explore, expand, and protect their place among the stars. Not as prey, not as victims, but as defenders. On alien worlds, children whispered Earth's name like a warning. Soldiers spoke of humanity with respect, and rulers hesitated when they looked at invasion plans. The lesson was written clear in the ashes of the Zorath fleet. Earth was a death world, and its people were survivors of death itself. The legend of the 6-minute war spread across the galaxy. It became a story told in every corner, a story of arrogance defeated, a story of patience rewarded, a story of humanity rising, and above Earth in the quiet of space, wreckage still drifted, silent reminders of what had happened. Each broken ship was a warning to those who would come next. Earth did not speak again. Humanity did not boast, but the galaxy never forgot the silence, because silence was the sound before the storm. Silence was the sound of humans preparing. And if another empire ever dared to test them, the galaxy already knew what would follow. Not hours, not days, not months, only minutes.